Aaron Mansworth of the Trigon Hotel Group, how are you?
Great, Jonathan. Great to be here. Thank you.
It's good to have you here as well. I want to talk about the hotel group because there's 3 hotels and there's great plans for the future and everything in a little while. But how did you end up in the hotel trade?
Long story short, Jonathan, I was born and bred into a pub in Cove, and I suppose, my first mentor obviously was my father, and I suppose, having spent most of my childhood free labour, working in the bar, really sort of, he'll say it was an experience, but from a very early age, worked in the bar, sort of really got a taste for hospitality and loved it. And I suppose that's the thing about hospitality, you really have to love what you do. So after that, I kept working in the bar, and then I decided to go the educational route and proceed on to Shannon College of Hotel Management. In between that, though, I did go to hotels because, a bar is only one aspect of a hotel, as you well imagine. So, I had to get 4 or 5 different departments under my belt. Really loved it and said, right, going to go the formal route. I went down to Shannon College of Hotel Management, where that progressed to placements in Switzerland, New York.
And it's funny, that is not the first time I've heard that route. Now, Shannon Hotel Management is near Shannon Airport, isn't it? It's just on the outskirts.
It's right in there.
Yeah,
right in there.
And the amount of people who I have met in the hotel industry who are working in places like Dubai, in Saudi, all the high-end stuff, a lot of them are Irish, and a lot of them went to Shannon.
Yeah, I suppose it was like myself when I went to New York. I went to New York in 1998. I was 21. It was a big unknown to me, but straight away there was the Shannon family was there, which were other graduates, alumnus that were out there, and they helped you to guide along, and that's always been the success of Shannon, is a very, very strong alumni, and I suppose the work ethic down there has always been excellent. So Shannon students have gone on to do quite well.
What was your first job in a hotel?
My first job in a hotel was skinning chickens out in the old Riverlee Hotel, or what was Jury's back then. Hotels were so exclusive to work in at that stage. I worked for an entire summer free of charge out there, skinning chickens when Dick Burke was general manager out there, just to get a reference letter.
Like the chickens were dead already, you weren't like doing a...
Just about. We had to do a bit of chasing.
But what did you take from that experience then of seeing the hotel and seeing I suppose the kitchen side of it from first hand?
I suppose, having grown up in a bar, I was used to sort of one aspect of a business, whereas in the kitchen you saw how purchasing had to be involved, the kitchen cleaners, the KPs had to be involved, the chefs had to be involved, and the food and beverage. It was the first time where I saw that a hotel really was 8, 10, 12 different departments all linked, and even in the kitchen impacted them all.
What strikes me about staying in a hotel every time is the hours are brutal. And I used to always be fascinated that you would spend an evening and you'd say good night to the person in reception, and then you come down the following morning for breakfast and the same person is there. And I always just have a vision that they're all asleep during the night behind the desk. But it's not the case. But it's split shift, it's long hours, it's hard work.
Well, I would say that has changed, and I would say I would consider myself an old school hotelier in that I would have trained in situations like that where you were working split shifts. That has changed, and our industry has moved and developed, and wages are better, the split shifts are gone. We have to follow the same employment legislation where you can't do back-to-back shifts. You have to have 11 hours between shifts now and all that. So, and that's one of the issues, our challenges in our industry at the moment. There's still a lot of misperceptions out there. So I think as an industry we are working hard at showing that a lot of people still think of our industry as just cleaning pots and pans and serving tables, but there's so much to our industry. Digital marketing managers, facilities managers, even a head chef now is a marketeer and a human resource manager. So
sure, you're trying to keep them off the telly 9 times out of 10, aren't you? Yeah, it's a real challenge to hold on to them.
Absolutely.
So let's move from skinning chickens in the old Jury's Hotel to where you are today in the Trigon Group. What's the new job involved, and tell us a little bit about the group itself.
Well, I suppose we started 8 years ago as the Cork International Airport Hotel, and it was a time when that property went through receivership. It was just...
it opened at a bad time.
It did. It opened, and it's a spectacular property. Like, when you look at the facilities and the resources that were put into the hotel, it was just bad timing. The hotel went into receivership for a few years and sold. So the hotel sold about 5 years ago to a family based abroad, and they've really brought us to another level. And more importantly, they've given us the resources to develop that hotel. Out of the back of that, we've further developed it in Cork, adding the Cork Airport Hotel, which was up at the airport as well, obviously, and the Metropole Hotel since. So we now have 3 properties, 320 bedrooms in Cork, with planning application in to add for a further 300 bedrooms.
And that's on the site of the Metropole, isn't it?
Yes, right next door, which was the old PGI Hay garage. So we've added that in there now.
So will that be complementary to the Metropole, or?
It will. It's one big development, and what we're looking at is the current Metropole will be completely redeveloped to something along the lines of a Shelburne-esque.
It's an old building, so you have to look after the old lady up McCurtain Street, don't you?
It's iconic. I was fortunate to work for 5 years in the Wall of Astoria in New York, and the parallels.
Your name dropping. I worked on the Wall of Astoria. Yes. Did you brought back a salad with you and everything?
Absolutely. Yeah. But the great thing is that you can see the parallels of that. It's so iconic. The history, the hotel speaks for itself. You know, in terms of, we did a function recently, the Met 120, where we invited all the couples that got married in the Metropole, and the history. But the love in Cork for the Metropole is amazing.
It's a great time to be in hotels, though, because anytime I speak to a hotelier, my first question is, well, how's the occupancy? And most nights, you can't get a hotel room in the city. It is doing extremely well.
It is, yeah.
I mean, are you lucky that there is a shortage of hotel rooms at the moment, which means that your existing business is doing well and allows you to look to the future with a certain amount of confidence that those rooms will be close to being full when you open?
Absolutely. Well, I suppose, you know, to keep my sort of city and county hat on here, we have a wide range of hotels in Cork, ranging from hotels that are doing from 55% occupancy right up to 92, 93. Of course, the city hotels are always going to be doing that bit better because the demand is in the city. So we've got to look at our counterparts, you know, on the peripheries as well, including our other 2 hotels. You know, I suppose as a rule, Cork is operating at about 80% occupancy. So what we would see in Cork is that there's a lot of bottlenecks, you know, and there's peak periods that, you know, it's hard to get a room. We're not at Dublin levels by any manner or means, but, you know, in the pipeline there is 1,400 bedrooms planned for Cork between all the developments that are currently on the table. So it's exciting times, but I think the question we have to ask out of that as well is what's going to drive these bedrooms. And I think that in Cork we have to look at things like the convention centre. That needs to happen. You know, we need to keep the facilities and the draw to Cork going as well. We can't just saturate with bedrooms and expect them to fill themselves. So we've got to be very careful that we're progressing other items as well at the same time.
Do you ever go back into the pub in Cove just to remind yourself of where it all began?
I do. You know, I suppose it was in our family since 1895, and unfortunately I was the generation to drop the ball because I wouldn't relocate back from New York to take it over. And you know, my father was looking to get out and sold it on. But it's great to still see it with the name over the door. It was a family from Carrigaline that are operating it now. But it is. And do you know what?
Did you go in there and critique the pint? Was it slightly creamier back in my day?
Absolutely. But it was nice to meet a few customers that remind me where I came from and say, listen, we put you through college and we taught you a lot of what you know today, so it's nice to see, you know.
The Trigon Group has 3 hotels in it for now. Aaron Mansworth, thank you very much for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan.